So after the new Fallout Amazon TV program came out, a lot of new players have come over to the Fallout gaming world. One such person was my own wife, who loved the show yet had never actually played a Fallout game before. Upon opening the game store, she was met with a dilemma. There were many Fallout games to select from. She knew that I'd experienced all of the Fallout games and asked me, which one should I try first? Well, Fallout 4 is the most recent single player edition of the game. It's the most modern in terms of graphics, gameplay, and it has a giant open world to explore. Although one could argue that the Fallout games that preceded it may be better, each for different reasons, the graphics and gameplay limitations are not currently up to today's standards. So it'd be better to start with a more recent release like Fallout 4, and if you have a good time, you can see the value of what a Fallout game can give, you can then try the older games. Enjoying Fallout 4 would give you the motivation to push past the technological limitations of the previous games and really learn to appreciate what absolute gems they are. Is what I should have said. Instead, the New Vegas fanboy in me jumped up and took control. Instead of suggesting Fallout 4, I declared New Vegas was the best, and that was the one to try. And she did try it, for an hour, and then gave up. She explained that she just didn't enjoy it, and she couldn't get past the graphics. She hoped that I would understand. A few days after filing for divorce and removing all her stuff from the house, I took a second to reflect and realised, what if she was right? What if Fallout New Vegas is now outdated, and I can only get through it because I played it when it first came out? I knew what to expect and what awaited me if I persevered, and she didn't. Maybe she should have started with 4 after all. I'm completely joking about the divorce thing, and what ended up happening is she played 4 and absolutely loved it, but it brought up something that I couldn't let go. Fallout New Vegas was and is still one of the greatest games I've ever experienced, but a lot of people will not get a chance to experience it as they're not willing to work through the old game mechanics and the graphics. So it begs the question, does Fallout New Vegas need a remaster? In this video, I will explain to you firstly why New Vegas is one of the greatest games ever made, secondly why it needs a remaster now, and then finally what would happen if it did get a remaster. Now before we jump in, some spoiler warnings. First of all, I will cover quests in Fallout New Vegas and some of the story. Nothing that would ruin the experience though. And finally, the last episode of the Fallout series, the last thing that's shown at the very final episode, yeah, I'm going to mention it. So if you need that to be a surprise, best wait until you've seen the whole show. Quick side note, I'm a new channel, so if you're new here, please consider subscribing. Anyway, back to the video. So why is New Vegas considered a masterpiece? Why does it deserve a remaster? First, a little bit of history. So how did Fallout New Vegas come about? After the first 2 Fallout games were released, it would take another 10 years for the third game to come out. Not just that though, the IP was bought out by Bethesda, making Fallout 3 the series' third main installment, but also Bethesda's debut take on the Fallout series. Fallout 3 was well received and scored well with most critics. It was the first game to take the genre into 3D. It introduced a lot of new players to the series, but fans of the original 2 Fallout said that it was missing a lot of elements that were present in the first 2 games. And then, Bethesda contacted Obsidian and asked them to make a sequel to Fallout 3. Obsidian was a great choice of studio as many of their staff had worked on the original Fallout games, so they had the experience and the knowledge of what a Fallout game should be. But there was one catch. They only had 18 months to do it. Most games take many years in order to reach the expected level of quality, but somehow Obsidian were able to accomplish the impossible and release the full game in the expected time frame. They used the same engine as Fallout 3, same gameplay mechanics, but just molded it to fit in new elements that they wanted to add. It almost looked like a sequel to Fallout 3 on appearance alone. But tight deadlines or not, the game arrived, and how? The game starts. Ron Perlman narrates over a slideshow with the now infamous "War Never Changes" speech, but describes how the Mojave Wasteland has been made up of tribes, each with different goals and ambitions. In just a few minutes, we're aware of what awaits us in terms of the size of the world and those who inhabit it. When we come to reality, we find ourselves handcuffed on our knees with 3 men standing in front of us. We don't know who they are, but there appears to be some kind of friction between the middleman and the other 2. Then the man in the middle pulls out a gun, explains how the game was rigged from the start, and pow! Welcome to New Vegas, baby. We then awaken in a house with a man, Doc Mitchell, sitting across from us. He explains that we've been out cold for a few days and he has successfully saved our life, despite us receiving a bullet to the head. This is where we make our character, both literally and figuratively. After designing our appearance, we're given a psych test, where we're asked to look at pictures and describe what we see. Each picture displayed gives us 5 options to select from. This shows the player how much customization is available, whilst also conveying the message that there are no wrong answers, which will go on to be a theme within this game. Answering these psych questions will lead to the creation of our recommended starting stats, putting points into things like speech, survival, unarmed or science. One of the main complaints I hear about Fallout 3 and 4 is the lack of role-playing mechanics. One of the best ways that New Vegas shows this is through its dialogue options and the freedom to roleplay within. So what does that mean? In Fallout 3 and 4, dialogue skill is handled by one stat, speech. The higher your speech level, the more chance of a successful speech check you have. New Vegas uses them all. So for example, at the start of the game there's a quest where you can protect the entire town from enemy invaders. You're asked to recruit members to your cause. As you go around and speak to each citizen, each requires you to have reached a certain level in a specific skill to convince them. For example, the shopkeeper requires that you have points in barter. Easy Pete requires that you have points in explosives. The barmaid requires stats in sneak. This is the perfect opening quest to show something so important about New Vegas. Every stat in this game is important, but none of them are there just for show. But it also shows you that you cannot have it all. You cannot have every skill maxed out. You cannot experience everything in one playthrough. You decide who you will be, and that will open different options but close others. Not just that though, in this same quest you can choose to side with the town, or go speak to the local gangsters and work with them instead. You have full freedom to customize how this quest plays out and what the town will look like after doing so. The ultimate level of freedom and role-playing condensed into just one quest. Fallout New Vegas is this experience multiplied throughout the wasteland. You have to think through every decision carefully, as everything has a ripple effect, from choosing a side in a quest to putting a point into a stat. It will all have an impact in the long run. Perks are introduced as well for every 2 levels that you gain, and there are over 100 perks. The maximum level you can reach in New Vegas base game is 30, so mathematically you cannot take more than 15 of the 100 perks available, which means you'll miss roughly 85% of the perks that are available for selection, only able to be experienced in another playthrough. When you level up in Fallout New Vegas, you need to really consider your options as you're making multiple long-term decisions. When I play other games, every level you gain, your character continues to get stronger. More health, more damage output, and as a result, I kind of stopped caring about the perks after a certain point, because I essentially have become invincible. In Fallout New Vegas, every level up counts in a big way, as it affects more than just your base health. In Fallout New Vegas, every level up counts in a big way, as it affects more than just your base health or your damage output. It will open doors in some cases and close them in others. That freedom to create a separate playstyle for each playthrough creates something unique. You will experience something completely different to what I experienced, as we prioritized different stats and chose different perks. This is freedom, but it doesn't stop there. In Fallout 3 there was a karma system where you could determine whether your character was the shining beacon of hope or the vindictive devil of the wastelands, good or bad. Fallout New Vegas took this a step forward, and instead of one overall karma standing, there will be 13 reputation standings. Each of these groups views you in a certain way and amends their opinion of you as you play through the game. The NCR will like you if you do favours for them, or if you do damage to their direct rival, Caesar's Legion. The same is true if you flip it around. All factions react to how you treat their members and their rivals. Over time, you'll naturally begin doing things which change people's opinions of you, but you cannot make everybody happy. Sure, you can play the double agent for a while, but eventually the main story is going to make you pick a side, a point of no return. This goes back to the freedom element in that you can choose who you want to be. You control the Mojave's future. you are also given extreme freedom in your ability to go anywhere and do anything, including offing main characters. No characters wear plot armor. Want to walk straight up to Caesar's Legion and shoot him in the head? Go ahead. Want to shoot the president of the NCR? Do it. There is no right or wrong way to play. The game will never stop you and say, hey, don't do that or you won't be able to do this other quest. The game wants you to try this stuff, and a lot of times it adds in dialogue lines specifically for scenarios like this, meaning that the game is rewarding you for the experimentation. The whole world map is also wide open to explore from the get-go. You don't even need to hang around to help that town. You want to go straight to the strip? Go ahead. Want to wander into a town and go on a killing spree? Make it so. The game lets you experience the sandbox and mold it into any shape you want. This is role-playing and ultimate freedom. It's also fantastic because it gives you many reasons to replay the game for a new experience. The game never tells you no. But the game shines even more in its writing and quest design. One of my arguments against recent Bethesda's titles is that their writing is very tame. It's almost written in PG-13 language and it lacks any real depth. Characters are written in black and white. Like, this is the good guy, he smiles when he talks, everybody tells you he's the hero, he dresses well, he saves people every day. And then here's the bad guy, he dresses in a villainous outfit, he's got an eye patch, he's angry, everybody hates him, you go up to him and his first words are to berate you. It's almost like cartoon characters. It's surface level writing and very basic. I'm not saying it's bad, it's just not my favourite. That writing is black and white, good or bad. New Vegas is grey. We as humans decide who is right and who is wrong. Nothing is ever black and white. We tend to shift on a scale ourselves depending on what experience we've had in life, constantly shifting between good and evil. Our opinion of people is the same. We may have disliked someone when we first met them, then grew to love them, then not like them again. The scale is always shifting depending on their actions as we're constantly trying to place them. The main story of New Vegas is based on you helping the future ruler of the Mojave. You meet every faction and then help them, and in the end, you decide who to back. In this game, every faction is the good faction, yet the bad faction. The NCR represents the old American values of democracy and freedom, yet when you speak to their citizens, they explain how the NCR force their methods onto you or wipe you out. Caesar seems like a madman, but if you have an in-depth conversation with him, he explains how the whole world will continue to go to war without an end to arguing factions. There'll be no peace that way. So, in a way, they're both right and both wrong. And that's the beauty of great writing. None of them are the right choice or the wrong choice, like back in Doc Mitchell's test. No matter which you choose, there'll be benefits and negatives. There is no happy endings, as there's rarely one in real life. A pop-up will never come up saying, way to go, the NCR was the right option, everybody's saved. You will eventually have to commit to a side and you'll suffer the consequences. No closure. This is great writing. Your opinion of the factions will constantly change. You'll never feel really truly committed to your final decision, and that's okay because that's how real life is. This whole faction reputation and main story allows you the ultimate freedom in your role-playing, making it unique each time you play the game. The world is yours to shape, with no hidden barriers. But it's not just the main quest where New Vegas shines. New Vegas has easily some of the best side quests that I've ever played in a game. In fact, it has over 100 side quests available. And these are not just fetch quests or one-dimensional. These are branching side quests which contain multiple memorable moments, unique characters with decisions to be made which impact the world and the people in it. You can experience many different endings in most of the quests. All are well written and thought out with lots of depth, leaving you weighing up a decision before realizing either way there will be negative consequences. But it's not just the story or the branching outcomes, but also the approach. If you play Red Dead Redemption 2 today, when you do a quest, you have to do exactly what the game tells you. Wander away from the track? Quest failed. Try to sneak around? Quest failed. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a great game, but there is no freedom in how to approach a quest. You have to do it exactly how the game tells you, or you'll fail instantly. New Vegas has the opposite approach. There is no set way to do something, and you're not just free to experiment, but you're often rewarded. In every single quest or side quest there is usually more than one way to accomplish the task. For example, there is a side quest called Beyond the Beef. A wealthy businessman is at the Ultralux casino and he's lost his son, and he asks us to investigate. The White Glove Society, who own the casino, has kidnapped the son and they plan to eat him, as they're cannibals. We then have 4 different ways to complete the quest. We can save the son, we can kill the son, we can kill the son and get the father framed and arrested, or we can replace the son with one of 9 other people. Each option has its own dialogue, its own cutscenes and outcomes. It's so complicated because the developers have to first write the quest story and options, then they have to add in all the extra dialogue, outcomes, variables, and even then, each player is only going to see about 15% of the content of this quest at best. You would need to replay this game and repeat the quest at least 4 times to see all the outcomes and options that you could take. This type of quest writing is so difficult to do, but it's so rewarding for the player and it gives immense replay value when it's pulled off. But are you ready for the crazy part? Every single main and side quest, yes all 100 of them, pretty much have this same format and level of depth. That's incredible and it gives such value and replayability. There is so much that I could praise New Vegas for, but these are the main reasons I can think of. Great writing, freedom to impact the world, and role-playing at its finest. At the end of the day, Fallout New Vegas is a gaming miracle. What the team at Obsidian managed to create in just 18 months should not have been possible. To create a giant open world game with such well-written characters and containing over 100 side quests with so much depth and variety is amazing. Even when I play this game today, it holds up as one of the best single-player role-playing games I've ever played. It's different to Fallout 3 and 4, but in a good way. It's a game that everybody should have a chance to experience once in their life. It's a masterpiece. But a lot of people won't get to experience this because it's old. Now when I say old, I don't just mean it's 14 years old, I mean it was pretty old for its time as well. Originally coming out on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, this game ran off the same engine that Fallout 3 did. With so much work behind the scenes crammed into one game, stitched together in just 18 months, there was always going to be drawbacks, and that is the crashing and the glitches. Speaking of crashes, even today trying to play this game on PC is a difficult proposition. Often the game will shut down for no reason, saves may become corrupted, the system is being pushed too hard and it crashed a lot when it first came out. Some people have had to install mods just in order to play the game properly without the constant crashing. Some people have just given up completely after being kicked out of it so many times. Nobody should have to install mods just to get a game to run successfully. One of the reasons why people won't get to enjoy this classic is because the game just doesn't run well enough and it needs to be recreated, otherwise some people just won't have the patience to stick with it. In terms of glitches, well, this game was built on Bethesda's creation engine. Firstly, Bethesda games are notorious for constant glitches. Now, sprinkle in a team creating a huge complex game with multiple levels of depth, and now let's throw in a 18-month deadline into it. What's the outcome? Well, you can guess. The character will fall through walls and floors every now and then. Sometimes objects will glitch and the body parts will go flying across the map. Random things will happen. Items will go flying around the room. It can be absolutely chaos. Quests will break at times and not register completed objectives, so players can be stuck on a quest at a certain point with no option to continue, which is really frustrating when they just want to complete the quest. Naturally, we were quite forgiving in 2010 as we almost expected the glitches on a Bethesda game engine, but the gaming industry has come a long way since then. Believe it or not, but 14 years ago, I feel that the gaming community was a bit more understanding and patient when it came to glitches in games. But nowadays, our standards are higher, and the games will be called out on it. It's not a bad thing, it just means that we've been treated to so many pristine games, and now we've come to expect the finished product upon release. With Fallout New Vegas, it's asking too much of the new generation of players to sit down and persevere through the glitches and constant crashing. Not just that though, but the gameplay and graphics are extremely outdated. The graphics for its time were never pretty compared to other AAA games that were released in the same generation, but age has only amplified it. Red Dead Redemption 1 came out at the same time as an example, and it looked and felt far better gameplay wise. In New Vegas, a lot of characters look awful. Some parts of the map look rough. It definitely needs a HD update. Back in 2010, New Vegas' graphics were a step down from other games like GTA 4. Now it's about 10 steps down from new games. The desire for quality graphics has also risen. Graphics are no longer just a bonus feature, they're pretty much the most important part. A lot of people won't play a game with less than beautiful visuals. The games that are dropping today are literally almost lifelike. You cannot ask someone who got into gaming recently to switch off Red Dead Redemption 2 and then quickly adjust to Fallout New Vegas. It's too steep. The gameplay design is also outdated. Firstly, there's no sprint button. Every game has had a sprint button for years now, and you'll feel the absence of that immediately. People say that the AI and shooting mechanics in Starfield was awful. Well, New Vegas makes them look like a dream. Enemies don't hide, duck, dodge, or show any strategy. Aiming is awkward and it feels janky. Fallout 4 improved the shooting so much. A lot of people back then would accept the bad shooting mechanics because it was a giant open world with many dungeons and quests available. It was an accepted trade-off. We couldn't expect a giant open world with hundreds of quests and then have a Call of Duty standard in terms of mechanics. We'd get a worse shooter but with a giant world to explore. But nowadays we can expect both to be present. We at least expect shooting up to the standards of Fallout 4. You can't expect someone who's played Fallout 4 with its updated aiming system to play New Vegas and then be satisfied. So when I ask a newer gamer to try New Vegas, the first thing they're going to see is the dated graphics, outdated mechanics, weird glitches, constant crashes and the absence of a sprint button. They'll never hang around long enough to see what it is that really makes the game so special. It's an absolute masterpiece when you dive down into it, but on the surface, the waters look foreboding. Not enough people are willing to dive in when they see the surface, and that is such a shame, as Fallout New Vegas is one of the greatest games of all time. The game must be brought up to modern standards for them to take that dive. So with the Amazon TV series announcing that the next season will take place in New Vegas, now is the perfect time for people to play this game. But due to all the issues that I've just listed off, new players are being put off from giving the game a fair chance. But with the announcement of the show, it's the perfect time for Fallout New Vegas to be remastered. Some classic games have had a remaster in order to appeal to newer gamers, and then they get the chance to try them. For example, the Final Fantasy VII Remake. They took a game from the PlayStation 1 and converted it into a beautiful modern PlayStation 5 blockbuster hit. But for its time, it was considered the best Final Fantasy and one of the best games of all time. Newer gamers wouldn't be able to see or play the old PlayStation 1 classic, but now they can see it in today's graphics and they can share the love for the game. Fallout New Vegas is now in that same category, where it becomes too outdated for new players to commit to, but it's still considered a masterpiece by all those who had the privilege to play it when it was considered new. By recreating the game exactly the way it is, in a new engine up to today's graphical standards, this game would surely be a bestseller. If they could keep everything the way it is, but then just add in new voice actors, updated graphics and gameplay similar to that of Fallout 4, I think they'd be onto a winner. I know Bethesda didn't make New Vegas, but surely they would see the benefit of remastering this game in light of the TV series heading there next. It would definitely mean a payday for them. If they could use their existing engine that they're working with now, just recreate this game in its entirety with modern gameplay features and graphics, everybody would then have a chance to experience Fallout New Vegas. Old fans and new fans could reunite and appreciate this masterpiece of a game. As the writing is already completely done, it's just a case of copying the game over manually. They don't need to reinvent the wheel. They don't need to add in settlement building, online elements or anything that would complicate it, they just need to recreate the game in the new updated engine. If that were to happen, it would sell like hotcakes. Whether Bethesda would be willing to do that though, is another thing. I have heard rumours that New Vegas damaged their reputation due to the amazing job that Obsidian did, and they have not outsourced the project since, despite its success. But they should still be proud of it, because if Bethesda didn't make Fallout 3, there would be no Fallout New Vegas. They created the engine for free, which was then used to make New Vegas. Fallout 3 walked so that Fallout New Vegas could soar. They should really consider doing this, as a lot of people would want to experience New Vegas ahead of the second season of the show, but right now it's asking too much for newer gamers to push through the older games. In conclusion, Fallout New Vegas is a masterpiece. What Obsidian were able to build in just 18 months is beyond comprehension. From its amazing writing, detailed side quest, and role-playing elements, this is one of the greatest games ever made, and everybody should have a chance to experience it. That being said, now that the game is older, newer players are unable to experience the game due to the outdated graphics, glitches, gameplay issues, and constant crashes. They may never get the chance to experience what a great game this is because of these barriers. Fallout New Vegas deserves a remake because of the beauty that it contains. With the show's second season being set in New Vegas, a lot of people will be wanting to experience this game, and now is the perfect time for Bethesda to cash in their chips and make a remastered version of this game. Newer fans get a new experience, Bethesda make a lot of money, and old fans get to experience the Mojave one more time in high definition. Everybody wins. This is why Fallout New Vegas needs a remaster now. Not just because of what it means to the show, but because it deserves it. Masterpieces come along once in a blue moon, and everybody should have a chance to experience this game. Anyway, that's it for this one. What do you guys think? Do you think New Vegas will get a remaster? Do you think it deserves one? Or would you rather see effort put into a new Fallout game instead? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like, and if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I'm Av Gaming, where we do video game analysis and reviews, identifying what makes great games great and what could make good games great as well. Thanks for watching. Av out.